4, we're going to find parametric equations for a graph. So there's two parts to this, which you'll notice for the homework, is, we're given an equation, so y equals 1 minus x squared, and we're going to use each parameter. So we have t equals x, and we also have t equals 1 minus x. So what we're going to do with this is that we want to solve for our x value, so really all we have to do is flip it, so x equals t. And then for the next one, we're going to plug in that t for x into this equation here. So let's do that. So we have y equals 1 minus t squared. And so that is the equation that it is looking for, right? That's all it wants. Now to get a little bit more practice in graphing these, let's go ahead and do that. So let's choose -1, 0, 1, and 2. So I know that my x values would be the same as my t values, right? X equals t, so -1, 0, 1, and 2. Then if I plug in my y values here, so when I plug in -1 for the t here, I'm going to get 1 minus 1, which is 0. If I plug in 0, I'm going to get 1. If I plug in 1, I'm going to get 0 again. If I plug in 2, I'm going to get 1 minus 4, which is 3. So let's plot these points here. And again, these are our ordered pairs, and the direction it moves is as t increases. So at x is -1, 0, and then that's time equals -1. Then at time 0, that is 0, 1, so that is time equals 0. Then the next one is x equals 1, 0, that's time equals 1. So we know we're going in this direction here. And then at 2, we're at -3. Sorry, that's a -3 right there. Okay, so that just kind of helps us get a little bit more practice in graphing. Now part B, so t equals 1 minus x. So first let's solve for the x value for this equation. So I always think about graphing it. And what we do, let's go ahead and add x to both sides. We get t plus x equals 1. Then to isolate the x, we subtract t from both sides. So we find that x equals 1 minus t. And so that is one of our equations that we need. Then what we're going to do is we're going to plug in this x value into the original equation. So the original equation was y equals 1 minus x squared. So we're going to plug in this 1 minus 2 wherever the x squared is, right here. So this is y equals 1 minus t squared. And then so let's expand it. 1 minus 2t plus t squared. And then we need to distribute this negative. So this is going to be 1 minus 1 plus 2t minus t squared. So the ones cancel. So the y equals 2t minus t squared. And so these are the equations that it's looking for. So in the homework, that's all it's going to ask for, finding the parametric equations. And that is just like one set of problems. And you don't have to graph, but I do want to practice graphing just so we kind of get used to that. So again, let's choose -1, 0, 1, and 2. And we plug in x value. So we're plugging in our t's here into here to get our x values. So what we find is that when you plug it in, -1, you get 1 plus 1, which is 2. And then if you plug it into the y value, you end up with a -3. Then you plug in 0, you're going to get a 1, and then 0. You plug in 1, you get 0, and here you get 2 minus 1, which is 1. And then you plug in 2, you get -1 and 0. So plotting these points at here, these points here. So x is 2 and -3. And then we have x is 1, y is 0. And then we have 0, 1, and then -1, 0. And so we know it's moving in this direction here. And then if you notice, again, looking at the equation y equals 1 minus x squared, that is the graph here. And so that helps us out a little bit. So this is our graph and our equations. So try these examples here. Do try to graph just to kind of get a little bit more practice with it, because it is different. There's a lot of information that we're now learning with t and so forth. So try it out. So if you tried this out, hopefully you can get the equations, and that's x equals t, and then y equals t squared plus 2. And then for the second equation, for using t equals 2 minus x, you get x equals 2 minus t. and y equals t squared minus 4t plus 6. And so just looking at the graphs there, notice how they go in opposite directions. So like this one is going up and this one is going down. So I hope this helps you out.